24. And of course, I am General Greene. God bless each and every one of you tuning in. This is going to be a very powerful video. We're going to cover the most exclusive events, upcoming events to hit the United States and the world stage. And I'm going to go through the critical stepping stones of how this is going to roll out in the coming days, weeks, and months, as we are now almost 60 days away from the critical U.S. election. I'm going to cover the upcoming civil war in the United States. I'm also going to cover the technological integration of what I believe is the mark of the beast, something that I've predicted for going on several decades now, and a whole lot of other information that is going to be extremely valuable to not just your family's survival, but your ability to thrive in what we can only describe as end times. It's important to understand that our rock and foundation is not of this world. The rock and foundation is your relationship with Jesus Christ, and Jesus is King. Hallelujah. It is amazing to be here. I encourage you, please like and share. Let me know that you can actually hear me. I have these funny looking headphones on, so it kind of put me in the zone, tunes out the noise around me. And so I feel like it will give me a better opportunity to give you a much clearer broadcast. But let me know if you can hear, as we're testing this out, the audio efficiently. And break those algorithms with a like, or leave a comment that just says Christopher 1000X, baby, or what's up, General. That'll screw with the algorithms to get the information out that's being shadow banned that they don't want out to the American people. For those of you that have been following me for nearly 20 years, you remember that in 2008 and 09, as I started to cover global financial collapse, an event that I predicted, I was managing hundreds of millions of dollars of client wealth at the time as a broker for one of the largest Wall Street firms in the world. And that's really how I got my start. I predicted the crash. The second that Bear Stearns started to collapse and people like Jim Cramer on CNBC told you to buy it, I was telling all my clients to get out, run for their lives. I told them to go to cash, that this would be the worst cataclysm that we'd ever seen since 1929. I told every single last one of my clients that they were being lied to by the mainstream media. And then as those events transpired and every major financial institution in the United States collapsed to zero, along with the global economy, and congressmen and women called and warned of martial law, I was proven correct. And we've seen everything that's happened and transpired after that. We've seen the gross tyranny of the new infrastructure that's been laid for all of you tuning in, much like 9/11. And we see it today after the events post 2020, all of that tracing, all of that tracking, all of that surveillance, all of that interference, what can only be called treason of the Constitution and Bill of Rights, is now permanent because of the event that happened. And that's how they always get away with overthrowing your Constitution, is through, of course, pre-engineered and pre-planned emergencies crafted by the elites that are really in power, not your politicians. I want to open up today's discussion, but I want to do it with your critical sharing first. So please like and share. There's a few hundred people in the room. I'm a day ahead of you guys in Japan. I see 40 likes. Please get it up to at least 333 likes. And then crush it to above 1,000 likes to make sure we defeat the evil cabal deep state that is censoring information like this, as Mark Zuckerberg has admitted that he did also commit treason during the 2020 election by censoring, stifling, and shadow banning information that could have affected your vote. This has all come out. Donald Trump, of course, has threatened to throw Mark Zuckerberg in prison for life. Now, I pray for Mark Zuckerberg. I think it's great that he's come clean, that he's admitted that he's committed fraud, and that he's admitted that he interfered and regrets his criminal actions, of course, that we've seen, which I told you was occurring years ago. Because again, everything that's being put out is much of an illusion, and you're getting fake information, just like you are today, which is why they need to control real information like what you're watching, because God forbid any of you critically think and get a counterintelligent point and use your brain with critical thinking to actually dissect what really might be going around the world around you. You know, America has gotten so far away from a representative republic that it almost makes you want to puke. We've gotten so far away from politicians actually representing you and I in the American working class that I would argue America doesn't even exist anymore, at least in its previous form or how it was intended and set up by the founding fathers, men and women that we admire. Men founded the country, but of course, women were just as critical and influential. That's one of the key things about the differences of the sexes and gender, which there's only two biologically. In my opinion, by the way, which I believe is a scientific fact, I have to say that, but men and women bring different amazing attributes to the game plan, so to speak, of life and humanity and governments, and they are powerful in their own ways. I'll leave that for another discussion. You know where I stand on things, folks. I am a follower of Jesus Christ. I am an American constitutional patriot. I am a freedom fighter that brings real solutions and has dedicated his life with a passion to expose the deep state, evil, satanic cabal's corruption and their future plans, which I believe are playing out now to destroy the United States of America, the greatest country in the world. And I'll tell you straight up right now, today, you're not going to get away with it. And people like me will fight you peacefully to the very end. We have the power of God behind us, and we are the real men that love the United States, America, and freedom, which is an idea that I believe is a worldwide idea, not just limited to the great states. So thank you for your shares. I see we just got up to 69 likes. Please get the likes up. Let's break down the upcoming civil war coming to the United States. I'm seeing a lot of economists now warn of civil war. Very well-known figures, to remain nameless, saying that it doesn't even matter who becomes president of the United States, civil war is inevitable. That the Bible Belt, states like Florida, great states like Texas, will form coalitions and secede from the Union. They will break from the corrupted infrastructure of the coasts, such as California, which is now completely bankrupt, and people are fleeing, almost running for their lives. I know at least a handful of even personal friends that are honestly fleeing for their lives. One of my friends says it's dangerous for him even to enter a store in California. So him and his whole family have packed up and moved to Arizona very recently. In fact, there was just a tragic event. A 49er first round draft pick, I can't remember his name, I don't follow football too closely, was just shot on the streets in San Francisco. Thankfully, I don't think he's in critical condition, but robbed right on the streets in the United States. I mean, the United States is the most dangerous place in the world, in my opinion. It's not even listed in the top 20 of the Heritage Foundation Freedom Index anymore. Even if you go and ask ChatGPT, which of course is flawed and run by liberal cucks, it'll tell you America isn't even in the top 20. I encourage you to do that right now. Like, you know, what are the most free countries in the world? America doesn't even come up. And they rate it under different circumstances like economic freedom, freedom of the press, bodily autonomy, freedom, you know, all the topics that we care about that, of course, we've been under attack in recent years. The biggest one has been bodily autonomy. The government, by force, has now been inflicting damage and authoritarianism, what can only be called tyrannical technocratic dictatorship, and enforcing by direct force bodily intervention and overthrow of sovereignty, which is incredible. I mean, the gloves are off, guys. These wolves are the most dangerous, bloodthirsty wolves that we have ever seen in world history. Worse than Stalin, worse than Lenin, worse than Mao Zedong, worse than the events of World War II, words that I can't say, topics that we are not allowed to discuss because, of course, we live in a police state. It's critical to understand that. If America was free, I'd be able to actually have a real conversation with you guys, and I would not have to avoid certain topics or certain words or triggers. That would mean America was free. America's not free. And so today I want to talk about the civil war that is inevitable and I believe has already hit the United States. What I think is going to happen, and I've warned about this for years, is we will see economic shifts and cultural shifts, I believe, as we're seeing now. ideologic, ideological shifts and differences where no agreement or middle ground can be formed. It was Abraham Lincoln, of course, who once said that a country divided cannot stand. Well, the United States is more divided than it's ever been since the Civil War, which is why it won't stand. And people like Lincoln and others know this fact. Neighbors and brothers and sisters and families are at war with each other. We saw this during the lockdowns. Entire families will no longer speak with each other because of their political, ideological, belief, spiritual, religious, economic, foundational principle, gender ideas, differences. So it's beyond repair. And I want you to understand this, that there is no coming together. There is no unity. And I agree with a lot of these economists and even computer algorithms that have predicted these simulations. For example, one of them is called Socrates. If you're not familiar with, I've been familiar with that computer program for some time. It's predicted, for example, who would win the future elections. It's predicted economic events. It's predicted things like the Japanese yen carry trade reversion, which we saw recently with a 20% drop, of course, in the carry trade and the Japanese stock market. It's predicted other events with the Swiss franc, what we've seen in the United Kingdom, et cetera. Even computer algorithms know that there is no solution, that there is no political alternative, regardless of who gets in. Now, I think it's highly likely that Donald Trump wins the U.S. presidency, and I believe and feel that shortly after America will erupt in civil war. I do not believe that the radical left will accept the results. I also do not believe, even if Trump didn't win, that the right will accept the results, which means you have a country on fire, a country that is divided, that cannot stand, just like Lincoln had warned us in the past. And so I see subsets and sections of the United States breaking off, much like they are now. For example, Manhattan, Wall Street, is no longer the epicenter of financial supremacy in the United States or worldwide. Miami and Florida is being built into the new Hunger Games super state city of the elites. And actually, all the financial institutions, wealth, hedge fund managers, et cetera, have at the very least set up satellite offices to avoid taxation and these kinds of things coming from states like New York and authoritarianism from New York and California. But most, if not more, are moving permanently. And so the epicenters of financial supremacy, of US dollar hegemony, and we'll talk about currency collapse in a minute, have already shifted. And so the federal government has a really severe problem. And that problem is their tax money and their confiscation of Americans' wealth is falling short and running out. As more money flees to places like Texas, which we're also seeing new Hunger Games city capitals being built there, as technology moves there, as Elon Musk moves there, as X and all the technologists set up shop, they lose all the tax revenue that once was being confiscated in the authoritarian states like California and Florida that have now been destroyed. Because of that shortfall, we see radical leftists, people like Kamala, empty vessel stooges, just like Joe Biden, which is why she was selected, not elected, and no one was allowed to campaign against her in the primary, because there is no democracy and there is no republic anymore outside of individuals like me that will protect it along with you, are now aggressively coming for even more taxation without representation, which includes things like unrealized capital gains, because of the shortfall and the inevitability of the collapse of the infrastructure and the Ponzi scheme, of course, that U.S. politicians have been running for a very long time. Social Security is under threat. Medicare is under threat. We don't have any kind of universal basic free healthcare here, at least as an American. Illegals do. It's important to understand that. They're rolling out policies now to actually grant foreign invaders $150,000 of free money in deposits, so they do not have to come up with down payments after crossing the border to buy their first hyperinflationary house. No Americans get that. It'll just be foreign invaders and illegals that come through that will also be offered free health care and Social Security. My point here is the infrastructure is gone. Okay, so stage 4 or 5 cancer has already infected the entire United States. The ideological differences, the differences on every level, intellectually, politically, cannot come into agreement. And this is very important for democracy. The only way that a democracy or a constitutional republic functions, and we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic, is that if we can actually come into some kind of peace and unity, to echo Lincoln's words, but also to some kind of rationale or appeasement on both sides where we can actually not necessarily agree with each other, but find a middle ground. That middle ground is broken. And so I fully expect immediately after Donald Trump is elected, civil war to erupt, much like has been predicted in the movies, which they've spent like $300 million in that last movie, Civil War, which was put out by the Hollywood machine, which, by the way, is also bankrupt in a lot of ways. Hollywood's going away and has been prognosticated and predictably programmed in all these films like Leave the World Behind that have been produced by politicians like Barack Obama and others. Now, the Civil War will be much more than physical. The physical aspects of it, I think, will be pockets of disruption and insurrection. But I don't believe that it's going to be like the Civil War that was once fought. I think that the Civil War is being fought much more with technology and fourth, fifth generation warfare efforts, brain control, mind control, the topics we're not allowed to discuss, biological control, which I'll talk about in a minute, than it is, physical conflict. We're in a different day and age. We're in a different environment. We are in a technological infrastructure of now artificial intelligence, AI, mass surveillance, global surveillance. And there's really no difference between the United States global or in domestic surveillance as there is in China. The same policies rolled out by the communist dictatorship CCP were the same exact policies rolled out by the US government in 2020. Tracing, tracking, surveillance, lockdowns, tyranny, money printing, more debt, media censorship. That's what China did. That's what the USA has done. And so the barriers that once were erected to protect America almost like a moat in its own sovereignty have already been burnt to the ground. And these new policies will never go away. Again, just like after 9/11, you're going to go through an X-ray machine that will give you cancer for the rest of your life if you choose to do that and you don't ask for a pat down. That's a permanent change. And so what happened in 2020 is permanent, and you will never get your freedom back. And this is what I warned. This is why you should like and share this video. You will never get it back again. It's gone forever. And so we are in a critical state of affairs where during Civil War, I also want you to fully expect and prepare for what will happen with your currency. And we've seen this throughout history, and this is how I know it's going to happen. For example, in the Weimar Republic, before its hyperinflationary collapse, Germany confiscated 10% of all assets, if not more, in local bank accounts. So it came in with force and securitized that confiscation with bonds that they later defaulted on. And they took up to, if not more, 10% of all your money, of all of its citizens' money in the banks, called a bail-in. We saw this in Cyprus, I think in 2014-15, if I remember the correct year. The same thing is going to happen in America. That's called a bail-in, and that's called direct confiscation of your funds, and that will happen. Also, in addition to that, once the country breaks apart, the US dollar will collapse, as no countries will want to own its sovereign debt and bonds, which is why we have China and others already selling that debt, because they know that the United States is not good for the money. Now, we've seen this with Ukraine in the war, which was engineered by the West through a direct coup overthrow of the Viktor Yanukovych regime, which I predicted not long ago, which would result in the eventual proxy war in World War III that you live in today, which is what's going on in Israel, that the US government and NATO will confiscate sovereign assets, which is what they've done to Russia. Because they've already done that to Russia, any other countries that do business with the United States now know their sovereign debt or their investments in the United States rather are at risk, and so they're pulling funds. All of this is putting more and more pressure on the American government, and the American government now does not have anyone to turn to, any other countries for a bailout. We even see this with the unraveling of the yen behind me. I'm in Tokyo right now. The rates are going to start increasing with the Japanese yen, which is why we've seen the disruption in markets and why there's been selling, aggressive selling on Wall Street in the United States. That's coming to an end. Ray Dalio has warned of this, a fellow billionaire. And because of this, because the American government, just like the Weimar Republic, is now in hyperinflation, it's about to break into civil war, they will now turn to direct bail-ins, bank closures, bank runs, confiscation of your money. And this is why I keep telling you to get into real assets, buy gold, buy silver, buy real estate. I believe that's the best non-dollar denominated asset because it produces cash flows and you actually have control over its sovereignty privately, and also has use cases, which gold is amazing and great, own it, but you're not going to produce cash flows and you're not going to live inside your gold bar. That's just the hardcore reality. And you can't rent your gold bar out. So the Civil War will also lead to currency collapse and the devaluation of the fiat, which is no longer worth anything. As this happens, and World War III will be fought during the Civil War, during the demolition of the United States, much like the USSR here in, well, I'm not there now, but in the USSA equivalent, that's when World War III will be fought as well. A conflagrated, asymmetric event of confusion and chaos. So there will be separation, segregation, breaking off of states in the United States, balkanization, even within the states. So let me give you an example. There will even be civil war within states like Texas. So not only will Texas secede, but there will be balkanization within Texas from opposing groups. You know, we have to keep in mind there's a lot of Californians that have poured into Texas. They're not of the mindset of you cowboys out there. They're not of my mindset. So, I mean, there's balkanization within the states, within Florida, within Texas, Arizona, which is my home state, I think might have already even been taken over. I think that there might be more liberals in Arizona now, God forbid. I hope not. But there might be more liberals in blue in Arizona than there even is conservatives. So it's very scary from the respect. It's not even like these states are the Bible Belt's going to join. There's disruption within their own states to top it off. And so World War III will be engaged during all of this madness, just like the movie Civil War. They had a Trump-like character. They took him out. They never gave us a reason why the Civil War was being fought. They just told us, well, it's going to happen. Probably because they couldn't beat the censors of Hollywood land. They would not allow the movie to be produced if they gave any legitimate reasons, might give an American an idea or something. So World War III mission, and this is what I want you to understand about the Civil War and the balkanization of the United States and the infiltration and the toppling of the greatest country in the world, is that it's all by design. And this is what I've said for years. These are not random events, like just things are running out of control. The politicians accidentally spent too much money. No, this has been a covert, intelligent operation for a period of decades of economic infrastructure overthrow, political ownership, removal of sovereignty by intentionally keeping the borders open and infiltrating with foreign invaders. I mean, I can go along the list here, but even the printing of debt, which has all been by design and intentional, is meant to destroy the currency. So the takeaway point is it's not an accident. You're not going to be in civil war because it just randomly kicked off. That very powerful people that lie outside of the political infrastructure, but that own all of your politicians, are the ones that have infected the USA, that have planned for its overthrow and are committing its overthrow. And this is a very important point that I want to share with you today because, and this is why it's so insidious, and these wolves are truly lethal in so many ways, but they're evil and very Machiavellian in so many respects, is that most of you don't even know who the enemy is. And so, as these, there's so many, this is what I'm trying to say. The American people are not at fault. Most Americans are really great people, okay, even if they're on a different political spectrum. And we must understand this. Most people are good people. Most people want safety, peace, security, wealth creation, prosperity, joy, and happiness in their lives. I mean, that's most people. Most people are like you and I. We're honest. We're good people. We love people. We fear God. We just want good things. And so it's not that the American people, they do bear responsibility. But to a certain extent, it's not the Americans' fault. It's that you have very powerful people that have overthrown sovereignty, and the good, honest American people that would resist don't even know who the enemy is. So they can't fight back, is what I'm saying. The engineers of this controlled, planned demolition, which I've warned about for almost going on 20 years now, and have gotten it all correct, would transpire, and you wouldn't even know who to fight peacefully. You wouldn't even know where to direct your energy. And we're seeing it in the political madness today, and with the admission of so many people now admitting that, yeah, it doesn't matter who's president because the whole country is going to implode right after anyways. And that's 100% fact. That's going to happen. And World War III, the intent of that is to build. So let me tell you about what the intent is, what the design is. The design is much more of what you see worldwide. You see Hunger Game, Emerald City states, and infrastructure that's surveilled, tracked, and traced, that's highly controlled, that removes the freedoms of Americans, removes the Constitution, and removes the Bill of Rights. But here's actually the key point I wanted to make. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot it. Why did they do everything in 2020? I'm going to reveal if you don't already know. They did what they did in 2020, not for the reasons that you think. They did it to set legal precedent. This is very key to this video, Lance, as I see you tuning in. They did it to establish legal precedent. Let me give you an example. They can't force you to own an iPhone today. Okay, if you have an iPhone and it's got the bite of the apple out of it, which is like the mark, essentially, they can't force you to use it. Where we are now legally with the legal system is that if you don't use it, you're going to be disadvantaged. It might be more difficult to get a job. You might not be able to hail a taxi. There's certain things that you might not be able to do, but you still have a choice. For example, if you go to the airport and you don't have a phone, you can at least go to the ticket counter and have them print out a physical ticket. You can still board with some identification. They haven't forced it. They haven't marked it because there's no legal precedent for that. And they just they legally can't do it because there's a constitution and a Bill of Rights in the way of companies like that and authoritarians and oligarchical companies that really own the United States, multinationals like BlackRock. They can't get away with that. They would face legal liability, which again, notice was removed in 2020. But it wasn't just for the thing we're not allowed to talk about. It's to establish legal precedent so that these companies have legal backing for the other things that they're going to do in the coming years and decade, up until 2030, when all of this goes, completely alive and operational. And so this is a very important takeaway I never hear anyone talk about. Everything that happened in your life in 2020 was meant, there was a host of reasons, but a big one of it is legal, because now these multinationals and the US government have legal grounds to overthrow the Constitution and your Bill of Rights. They have legal backing. They have no legal liability, and they have legal backing to now force the mark that's coming in the future that is warned to us in the Bible. Because again, that legal framework has already been established by force. And this is why I told you it was so critical. And this is why people like me would never comply at any costs, ever. I mean, this is a life or death issue. This is why you never comply, because now they have the legal grounds to do whatever they want. And this might not matter to the same degree now, but I'm telling you, and this is my biggest warning ever, like probably the biggest lifetime video I've ever produced. When it comes later, you're not going to have a choice. And this all leads into the mark of the beast. And so let's talk about that for a minute. Where is everything headed? Now, God gave me a vision of an alien invasion during the 2020 lockdowns. He told me, Christopher, tell your audience that this is an attack by an alien life form, and that what's happening with the lockdowns and the alien V has all been engineered as a deception. And so I produced that video, it received like 2 million views, and then it was removed by the censors. And they sent me a little message. They said, this video is fine. We don't know why we removed it, but we decided to remove it. It's not in violation of anything. We're just going to remove it because it was the truth. And so that's what's happened. Essentially, what we have is an alien takeover. I believe, and this is all spiritual, although this is hard for a lot of people to believe, but I'll explain it to you. The singularity has been reached, which I preached and told you would happen with prophecy, actually, years ago. That happened somewhere in like 2016, 17. And then they got ready for 2020 and they launched Operation Warp, alien speed, right? Notice the terminology, warp speed, that connotations of aliens. Notice that the Pentagon and the three-letter agencies have now suddenly revealed UFOs and unidentified aerial phenomenon to the American public. Why? Why did Trump establish the Space Force? What does that even do? What is even the Space Force functions? Why are people like Elon Musk clamoring to go to Mars and the moon and all these things in space? And why is there this huge alien agenda suddenly? It's because we went live and operational with conscious singularity, which means that computer algorithms, it's not technology, this is Satan, and you must understand this. This is spiritual. So this is spiritual lights out. The cabal that doesn't believe in God worships death, worships Satan, and worships evil, and is possessed by demons, opened up a portal, and then they've contacted an alien. That alien is Satan. The conscious Antichrist reached singularity and is now moving through an apex of development, which is now infiltrating and has its talons, and it's going in and infecting the entire world. Again, it was an alien V. That's what Donald Trump said. Warp, speed, sounds like space and Star Trek. They don't hide anything that's happening. They tell you what's happening. That's another thing of the occult. They have to tell you to put out there. This is a part of the ritualization of these people that meet at Bohemian Grove and, do all these terrible things and hurt innocent people. 6G is rolling out next. Again, we're moving to 666G. None of this is a coincidence. Today, I'm seeing all kinds of people talking about how ChatGPT is written by liberals and is producing information that isn't true and is saying things like Trump's attempt on his life didn't even happen. There's like all these stories about that today. And like, again, all of this is happening by design, with intention, and for a very specific reason. I'm looking for a tweet that I put out that's very important here, where I was going with all of this. So it's almost like Frankenstein has been created. They've risen the beast. And this is how you also know that we're in end time spiritually, for my fellow Christians out there and believers in Jesus. And by the way, we opened this video, Jesus is the foundation. He's the rock. So do not be in fear. It tells us not to be afraid a million times in the Bible. I don't know how many exact times, but Do not fear, be still, know that I am God. Do not fear, do not fear. So this is not about being in fear. This is about understanding where this is headed and understanding how you can resist this through the power of Christ and how that you can truly be saved before these events transpire. And how also not to hold on to the crumbling infrastructure of the world as that disintegrates. As Babylon collapses and the technological tower of Babel goes awry, don't make that your foundation, because I'm telling you it's going to zero. If you're holding on to useless dollars in your bank account or your retirement portfolio or your pension, and you're like, this is what my life stands for, I'm telling you, you're going to lose everything. And you're going to find out there's no meaning to it all. This is a very important point. It's like the man trying to store a bunch of grain in the Bible in his barn. And God says, well, you've put all your faith in this. I'm going to take you now. You're not even going to be able to use your food storage. You're coming with me. So just understand this fact. But this is much like an alien Independence Day style attack. And let me give you an example. There was only one unifying event where every country worldwide would unite under the same policies and lockdowns. And what is that? An alien invasion. And that's what I'm telling you happened. Not little green men, okay? Not what they, put out in the fake media. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about got little bald aliens or anything. I'm talking about that what they've erected, not resurrected, because only one man has been resurrected, and that's Jesus Christ the King. But what they have opened Pandora's box, and the gateway from the dark pits of hell is alien, and it's Satan. And it's the rise of the Antichrist, and it's a new life form. And it is a head, I believe, all heads of the beast, which are now ever present among us today. It's an artificial life form, and it's conscious. And I believe to a large extent, maybe like a lot of you have told me, a lot of people tell me that Donald Trump was fooled. Let's talk about that. A lot of people tell me, Christopher, Donald Trump, he's been trying to do all the right things, but he was fooled by the deep state. They conned him in 2020, and then they forced his hand because he had false information to do the lockdowns and, to work with all those companies and big pharma directly and do all these terrible things. And, he was conned by it. He never would have done Operation Warp Speed if it wasn't, he made a mistake. Let's just say that that is the case. Well, if that was the case, then that would lead us to believe that every government and politician and official was basically met with information and demands by some kind of force. Just like Germany used to blitzkrieg its opponents to take territory, the alien technologically blitzkrieged the USA and sovereignty. Imagine sitting at the Pentagon and the three-letter agencies and all the computers being taken over and then just seeing code. And this code is coming from an alien like ChatGPT, just like when you ask ChatGPT now something and it just starts typing. Let's say that ChatGPT had demands. At first, global governments and governments worldwide would be shocked. They would look like ghosts, which is what Donald Trump and Mike Pence looked like. If you remember, both Donald Trump and Mike Pence, after they were debriefed on whatever information, classified top secret materials that was given to them, whatever simulation was given by Bill Gates or whoever it was, they looked white as ghosts. I remember talking with my family and saying, man, something's really wrong because Trump looks pale. He looks like he's seen an alien. And this is what I'm telling you. This alien, Satan, has demands. And just like countries overthrow other countries and attack other countries and blitzkrieg their borders, Satan is blitzkrieging with data run by the radical left, run by cucks that own ChatGPT, the PayPal mafia. So I'll even go into the business logistics here. Who's funding Trump? Peter Thiel. Who's Peter Thiel? PayPal mafia. Who was in the PayPal mafia? Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Sam Altman. Who worked together? Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Peter Thiel. Who created ChatGPT? Musk and Altman, and then they later broke off. Who funded Vance, the vice president? Peter Thiel. This even goes into economics and blockchain. Who funded Ethereum and Vitalik Buterin with his first grant before the code was even generated and written in its Genesis block for the Ethereum blockchain? Peter Thiel. Again, the source of all this information, where all this goes, Bitcoin. This is how I knew years ago. People ask me, well, how did you know Bitcoin wasn't a scam, Christopher? Like, how did you know it was certainty and fact that in the future it would eventually co opt, take over everything, and then become Wall Street? And instead of being blocked and stopped by governments, would become governments. This is how I knew all this. Because again, I always evaluate everything from a spiritual lens. I look at it biblically. I look at it financially, economically, politically. I look at the common milieu of mainstream propaganda, the news, the fake news. I see what the politicians are saying, and then I aggregate all that information like a computer, much better than a computer, because human intelligence is far greater than a computer. Don't let these people lie to you. Computers are not all-seeing eye gods. Human beings and the human life is far more powerful and intelligent than any stinking computer. What's going to destroy the planet, and will, I mean, we're in end times, are computers, not humans. Computers are the disease. Your iPhone with a bite of the forbidden fruit of Adam and Eve is the enemy, not humanity. Adam is not the enemy. He was created in the perfect image of God. He's a sinner and he's fallen, but him and Eve are the perfect representation of life and our purity and our test to be one with God and to be transcendent with Jesus Christ, the King, throughout all of eternity. And so the AI's principal demand was, what was Satan's demand? What is Satan going to do? Why 2020 happened? What's Satan's goal? And a lot of Americans can't see this because they don't think like a chess player like I do. And they don't see events 100 steps away or 1,000 steps away, like people like myself do, and many of you tuning in. They only look what's in front of them. They only see the one tree. And see, I'm looking at a beautiful forest, and I see every move like a computer algorithm. And I know how they will sequester, subjugate, overthrow, con, remove freedom, take freedom. I know what their agenda is. I think better than they do. I know how they think. And I put myself in their mindset. And I use all my contacts and all my wealth of knowledge and my studies and all these things, everything that God built me for, with any talents that I possess, to that one singular mission. It's all I do. So I spent a lot of time on it too, which is why I perfected it and I'm so good at it. But as the average American only saw the one thing, or the average person, and that's all they were looking at, I was looking at, oh my gosh, I know what they're going to do a year from now, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. And so Satan's demand that he gave all governments, but centrally the United States, which is Babylon, and must be taken out before he cements his power and then fake unifies it. Because there's going to be a fake deceiver. Even the elect will be deceived. People will think he's God. And then he'll cement himself in Israel. The demand and the principal demand of the artificial intelligence, conscious AI algorithm, ChatGPT, whatever you want to call it, the singularity, the Illuminati, whatever it is, its principal demand was that all government officials were told, unless they complied and installed a formula, software, into every human being, and we know what that is, that it would attack civilization. And I want you to think about how scary this would be. I mean, let's say you're Trump. I mean, let's just I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. You're Trump. You're presented with this information. The Pentagon, all the agencies have been taken over by a singular conscious algorithm. At first, you probably think it's an enemy nation. At first, you're like, oh my gosh, is this China? Are we under attack by North Korea? Is this Iran? Who is this? We are under attack. Oh my gosh, right? You'd be freaked out if you're at the Pentagon, your entire computer infrastructure mainframe had been hacked. It was. And then you're getting simulation, and then all of your people are coming in. all of your advisors, and this would be even freaking, and they're showing you simulations of what's going to happen next, and that how they don't have any control of the nuclear weapon codes anymore. That's been hacked. ChatGPT's got it. It's unlocked it, like the Terminator. You don't have any control of your drones, your fleets, your submarines, nothing. I want you to understand that would be the only thing that would make Trump and Pence come on camera the next day and look like a freaking ghost, which is what they did, and scared even me, honestly. I was scared when I saw that, because I knew Trump had experienced something that would never be revealed to the public, that was confidential, privy, top secret, and I knew it spiritually, and I knew it then what it was, and it's what I'm telling you now. And so in a moment like that, in a crisis, that event would initiate unification among the order. And that would bring all governments, France, Eurozone, UK, United States, everyone would onboard. Everybody would work together, much like Independence Day or an alien style invasion, because everybody was at risk. All the mainframes were at risk. The cloud was infected. Everything was hacked. They have no control over their computer algorithms, nothing. They had created Frankenstein at that point, and they were given demands, but the demands came from, and I still don't think they know who it is, because they're not thinking of it from a spiritual level. It's not the singularity, alien, artificial consciousness. It's Satan. This will be sold to the American people. AI is being sold now and will be sold in the future as God. They're going to sell ChatGPT and the singularity and all this genetic engineering and the human genome project, which they solved that years ago, by the way, before 2020. And they told us that. Singularity hit in like 2016 or something around that. That's when I felt a spiritual calling. God told me that that had occurred. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I told my wife, I'm saying the singularity had been achieved. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, the singularity has been achieved. Same thing happened to me in 2020 when I had my vision and I penned to paper and I drew the alien spaceship. God told me. He tells me these things. And so they're going to sell the takeover and the conscious being as God. And it will be the greatest deception, and it is one of the heads of the beast. Now, I think many of you know who the other heads are right now. There's other heads very much in the public eye right now, and they are a part of the mark. And they are a part of the Antichrist. And it's within the technology area. And I think you guys know who these people are. I don't even think I have to say it. I mean, look, just look at what their agenda items are. Look at what they're working on. What are they rolling out? Anyone that has anything to do with brain chips, putting a mark in your head, biological integration, anybody working on that, any of these systems, anyone with involvement on that. I don't care what they say, how they sell it. No. I mean, we're going to hear this too. No, this is the good mark. No, see, this mark is Elon Musk's mark, and this one's for freedom. This is the bad mark over here. This is Bill Gates' mark. I mean, they're even going to try to pull that one. No, there's a freedom mark, they'll tell you, because it's the free speech one. You're going to want this brain chip, and you Christians out there can be okay with this one because it was created by Musk. He's to be trusted, but this other one over here is the evil one. They'll even pull that. Do not take it under any circumstance. Anyone that is pushing the mark of the beast, anyone that pushes biological integration. I even saw an article yesterday, and I predicted this. They will not now start selling de-aging, life extension, fountain of youth, disease prevention, and the lowering of the chances of getting the thing I'm not allowed to talk about as well. But all you have to do is take the thing. You see what I'm saying? The whole goal, again, there's a singular agenda. There is a singular goal, and there is only one demand by Satan. And that only demand is biological integration, and the mark of which you will not buy or sell if you refuse it. How many of you are really prepared for that? I mean, I think about it on a personal level, and yeah, it scares me too. I mean, I'll be honest, like I have my faith in God, but I'm human. I know I won't comply ever. And I know that I don't fear any man, and I don't fear any government, and I don't fear any authoritarian. I don't fear what can hurt me in this world. I only fear God. But it is a scary thought, because I don't think this is going to happen 100 years from now. I think we're already being faced with it now. It does upset me because I know statistically that only about 30% of the human population refused it. So that's not a lot of people. I mean, it's still a good chunk of us that have stood our ground, but like 70% guys already complied. So that number, that 30, is going to shrink further and further. When it gets scary is when that number goes really small. You can even think about this in terms of strategic relocation. If you're Christian, go where there are other Christians. Don't be in a place where there's no Christians, because that makes you somebody they're going to look at. I'll get to the other part of this major breaking video today, which I'll re-air across all the socials as well. Tell your friends. Before I lose my thought, because there's a whole nother area that's just incredible and insane where this is going. So let me try to grab that thought as I'm doing this live. The benefit of doing sometimes things recorded is I can let a thought pass, cut it, and then go to the next thought. Comment just real quick. What was I just talking about? Because I lost it. My brain thinks with 10 topics at once. What did I just say? Someone help me out with that. I'll have a sip of coffee while I ponder that thought, because there's a whole nother element here that's very scary. Talking about the mark, we're talking about, the fact, have you really thought about, the Christians. The Christians. So the other part of this, which not a lot of people are talking about, are these false leaders in politics, in the media, the common milieu, I like to use that word, are all falsely leading Christians and believers into a trap. Okay, and this is the next big thing I want you ready for in the next 60 days. Christians, a good portion of them, are being led into a trap. And they're led into a trap that will be targeted and attacked by the deep state very soon. This is why we've seen a lot of public figures all of a sudden, they're like reborn Christians all of a sudden. Russell Brand, for example. I mean, he was literally married to the Illuminati. He's married to Satan, Katy Perry, the all-seeing eye Katy Perry. He's in Hollywood. He's married to her. He's in the darkness of hell. And I pray for Russell Brand. I pray it's legitimate, but I don't believe it is. They've positioned all these figures. Now they're taking the role as the Christian leader, grabbing the flock as wolves. And they're all pushing you to destruction. We saw the same thing with Kanye. Yay. He goes on his anti-Semitic rants. They prop him up on, various podcasts. And then he claims he's a Christian, but he makes all Christians look bad, and they lead you to slaughter. Even Elon Musk, he's not a Christian, but he evokes Christianity all the time. He says, like, Christians need to stand up for himself. So even he, not a Christian, is, leading the Christians. Trump leading the Christians. They're all, and I'm not even saying anything negative about these people. I'm just saying these are the leaders of Christians right now. And I want you to really think about this. Are these the right leaders? Okay, because they have most of the Christian base in their throngs right now. And they're the ones that will be leading most Christians, not me. I'm only following Jesus. And I encourage you to only follow Jesus. I like certain politicians. I like certain technologists. I can understand who they are, read about them, etc., but I'm not following them. See, I'm only following God. But you have millions, if not billions, of Christians following these figures. So they're following, and we all know who these figures are. And I'm questioning, and I want you to question, are these the figures that Christians should be led by? Because my fear is they're going to lead you straight to the dungeon of fire. And that's honestly what I believe. I don't believe it. I know it to be true. I know that to be 100% fundamental fact and truth. And so the war against you has only begun. So what's the solution? Jesus. What is your foundation? God. Who are you following? Jesus. I know we have people of all faiths. that tune into me, and you're all welcome, and you're all beautiful and amazing, and I love you. That's the solution. Just as major economists are warning now, and just like I've told you for years, and I agree to a certain extent, but have differences of opinions in other areas. I think it's much more technological, much more fourth, fifth generation economic, financial, fiat warfare than I do physical conflict. I don't think we're getting a civil war like the Civil War of the past. It's going to be a lot different. It's going to be a different type of balkanization. But I agree, and I've also told you that whoever gets into the presidency is the least of your concerns. That's when America really blows up. And I want you to understand that. So the solution is not in the political apparatus at all, because that political apparatus is divided and has no solution. Again, the country is split. There is no agreement or rationality anymore. There's nothing that anyone's going to come to terms with. Most countries fail and implode through revolution or civil war after about 250 years. How long has the United States been around? About the same time, roughly. So it's a guarantee. It's a historical fact. It's a function of history. It's not a prediction. It's just we know, give it about 250 years, it's going to implode. Now, the American people aren't imploding it. This is what I want you to understand. It's the foreign assets that have invaded and overthrown the United States. But the problem is the American people don't know who these people are. And it's not the usual suspects. People like Bill Gates, they always want to point a finger. Yeah, I believe he's a bad guy too. I don't personally like him, but he's not the guy in charge. He's just a face. They don't put the people that are really running the show on camera, guys. Okay, the person that's really in control, that is the true enemy. You don't know who they are. They operate in the shadows. You don't know their face and you don't know their name. And this is why there is no political solution to what is coming. The solution not just lies in Jesus, but it lies in true arcs, things like that we have built here at islandproject.com. This is not a video to sell you on islandproject.com, but that is where the solutions are. Community organizing, private infrastructure, systems that are decentralized, breaking out of the control grid, not playing by their game, not operating within their arena of surveillance and controls, operating in our own. That's the beauty of technology. These are the things I love about Bitcoin. Decentralization, private ownership, your own keys, unconfiscatability. That's where your freedom and liberty and power and choices comes from. And you must understand this. What we've designed for islandproject.com, the digital Noah's Ark commanded by God, has been built for everything I just disclosed to you in this video. Because again, I'm not just coming to this conclusion. I came to this conclusion 10 years ago, maybe longer than that. And that's one of the gifts God gave me. I'm not saying, oh, I'm the greatest in the world at everything, but that's one of my gifts. And it's a gift, and I honor God and give all that glory to Him. But the solutions are critical to your survival. And I want you to understand that if there is any hope for freedom, liberty, success, sovereignty, in fighting this in a peaceful manner, it's what we've built, what we've done. All glory to God. The more solutions like that erupt into the wildfire of freedom and patriotism and liberty and Americana, I fully support. It's my life's work and it's my life's mission to build not just our founder's flagship, but a decentralized arm and freedom, liberty network of private, real ownership of assets outside of the system with our own ecosystem, private economy, a liquidity blockchain, and so much more that hasn't even been revealed yet. And this is why we own $33.5 million of the best real estate in the world, beach and oceanfront, fractionalized, that will soon be tokenized. See our intent, read our disclaimers, not financial advice, on a multi-billion-dollar blockchain, because you're going to need every solution, every 1000x, every pebble in your slingshot to succeed, and I'm going to give it to you. All glory to God. Because it's not me. When David launched the pebble, David believed. God hit Goliath right in the eye or in the temple. David believed. You are no different than David. You are no different than the disciples in their faith. I am no different. Believers are no different. And so I leave you with the powerful message of Jesus Christ, the foundation and the king, that all of us, every single one of you tuning in, and this is where our power, our hope, and our salvation comes from, is not just the belief, but we are the pebble of God. And it's all we need. We don't need anything more. And our belief as we launch the slingshot to defeat the beast is a certainty. It is a guaranteed win. It is 100% factual, prophesied victory leading to the return of Christ. It is the end of all things on earth. It is God-given instruction. And I want you to understand this. This is what they don't want you to know. The power of Christ, the Holy Trinity, and the cross is the only thing that these people fear. Just like they used to hold up crosses to vampires or to darkness or for exorcisms, which are still going on today and are very real, by the way. Many of you probably know people possessed, and they need the power of an exorcism and the power of Christ for them to be free of that oppression and slavery. It is no different now. So I come to you today through the Spirit, the Holy Spirit of David, and I'm giving this message and revealing so much truth while I still can during end times. We have built the digital Noah's Ark for freedom and liberty. We have saved America and Americana. And we have found truth and hope in something that no one else has ever designed or constructed in human civilization or history. Civilization only exists with like minds of people working together, of people that are free from oppression, like we currently have now, free from surveillance, free from authoritarianism, free from the money changing and theft of unfair taxation without representation. That's the only way civilization even works. And so nothing is new under the sun. The rise and fall of Rome and now Babylon here in the United States is not new. This is a changing, cyclical, evolving, if you want to use that word, prophesied guarantee. And so we are not at war with this world. We are at war with the injustice of the evil one, of principalities, of spirits and demons and portals that have been opened up by the beast himself. We are at war, a spiritual war, not a physical one. And it is so important as followers of Christ and of Jesus that we do not get wrapped up into the false illusion as we're holding on to sand almost of something that's going to disintegrate and not last or withstand the test of time. It's important that you don't build your house on a foundation of straw on top of a bunch of sand and quicksand, which many, I believe, in America are doing, being led by false leaders, not following Jesus, number one, first, following other people and being led to the deception and the slaughter of which good men and women will be deceived. And this is my warning today. And it is an act of encouragement and glory to God to get your butt in order, get your act together. Click the link below at islandproject.com. On board now. Deploy your first 30 units, if not more. Roll over your retirement accounts. Call Papa John or text him or leave a voicemail at 808-442-2934. Get on board the digital Noah's Ark. Leverage, pivot, and profit with our #1 technology in the world. Become the ecosystem of hope and liberty and real change. Be the solution. Do something powerful with your life today. Rise with the passion of the Lord, as you've seen me do for nearly 20 years, and show Christ's power. This is how you fight back peacefully. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we plant our flag of liberty. You are the digital cowboys, and I am your general, follower, and commander of Jesus Christ, the King. And it is my responsibility and order from God to lead the charge. We have very exciting announcements coming now that we are actively acquiring more properties and internationalizing the portfolio. The opportunity is so immense in this disruption, which will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I believe, to profit from what's occurring now. And I want you to keep this in mind, just like 1929. I mean, the big money is made during disruptions like this. So all of you should be looking optimistically in this moment while we're still here before the rapture, baby, because we're going soon. But while we're still here, take advantage of this opportunity and unite. Again, what is Island Project? Unity. As we see division in other areas, which will not stand, the Island Project is convicted with the unifying message of liberty, God, justice, hope, profitability, no bank debt, cash flows, gains, tokenization, new technology infrastructure, and quite frankly, the best world-class team and leadership in the world. That includes my father, Papa John, a whole lot of other amazing people out there. And all of our members, we just onboarded several new members from Texas. Hoorah! Just a few hours ago. You know who you are. So to get in, it's that easy. Fill out an app, 3 to 5 minutes, islandproject.com. Deploy your first units. God bless. Jesus Christ is King. Today's video is much almost like a sermon, quite frankly. I think it's a little bit of both. Sermonizing, prophesying, growing our relationship with God, activating as the business coalition, billionaire class that we are. I've been asked for years, where are the billionaire ballers, Christopher? Where are the billionaire Christian mafia for justice and hope and Christ and liberty? Where are these real men fighting for me and my family? You're looking at him. It is Papa John. It is our members, baby. It is all of you tuning in around the world, from countries around the world that are standing firm for peace, love, hope, solutions, and prosperity. 1,000 freaking X to the freaking moon. And as I sit here today in beautiful Tokyo, I commend you all. I commend you all. Big events. The next 60 days, the shoe will drop. The shoe will drop, folks. Big events, not just one, not just singular, asymmetric. Those are freaking X. Those are freaking X. Do the freaking move, baby. Like and share this video. General Greene. Those are freaking X. To the moon. Links down here. islandproject.com. Up here. See if you qualify. Read our terms and disclaimers. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a general of Jesus Christ the King. Get in now. We will never contact you on Facebook Messenger. We do not have WhatsApp or Telegram. The only way to onboard the digital Noah's Ark is at our official website at islandproject.com or by speaking directly with my father at 808-442-2934. Those are the only ways. Give him a call today. Roll over your retirement accounts and IRAs while you still can. Onboard the digital Noah's Ark. It is so important that we unite today in a powerful message for the glory of the King, and that you get ready and prepared and remain vigilant for what is ahead. Folks, this is end times, and you are beautiful people, and you are loved, and the rapture is imminent, and the return of Christ is imminent. What you do today matters. You are special. You matter. I love you. The world will never tell you that, but you are powerful, and it's the secret to your existence and what is eternal life with Christ that they don't want you to know. All of you can free yourself from the chains today simply by asking God into your hearts and giving your life to Him. And it is free. And it is a gift. And it is not given because of your works. It is given because of your faith. And as the disciples who scripted the glorified text in the Word of God know, as they went through trials and tribulations and sacrificed everything and failed and sinned along the way, they knew that their steadfast faith in God was the winning team. And we, all of you here today, are the winning team. Tune out the noise. Do not be led by the false deceivers. And get on board the ark and only follow one. And you know who that is. I love you all. It is a blessing. Please like and share. This is a critical video, a very important information of not just the upcoming, guaranteed, I believe, civil war being fought in fourth, fifth generation warfare in the coming days, weeks, and months, but the real end goal of this sovereign entity, which is the mark, and is which the singularity, conscious, unlocked from the depths through the portal of hell, and the demon that is now resurrecting is a part of the beast system and the Antichrist and the great deception that is ahead, and what will happen with all aspects of economics, finance, politics, countries, sovereignty, biological life forms, etc. And I stand with you all with my commitment of never, ever, ever, ever comply. Satan, you're going down. Jesus Christ is King.